I was reading the newspaper, the AARP bulletin this morning as I had a little breakfast, and it was a great article dealing with Phil Jackson. Those of you that are basketball fans, you know that he was a leader with the Lakers, a leader with the Chicago Bulls, twice coming back to the Lakers, and each time he was able to take the team to a national championship. In fact, he has 11 rings. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
A ring a year, that's 11 years that he's been working at the top of the basketball career. So I was reading it, and I thought that it fitted in well with what today's topic is all about. Phil's father was a minister, and he's a very internal, soft human being. I really saw him upset when he was sitting on the bench watching his players win and lose. And it's difficult for someone like Phil to see people lose. But I didn't see him ever look angry or yell or scream at his players, even those that, in his view, made mistakes. He said, so by watching and by seeing how he acts in a variety of ways, I can tell you that this is a human being that viewed leadership as being a teacher. He would, when a player came out to be placed during the team operation, he would chat with them quietly on the bench, and then eventually put them back in. And you can see the change that the player made as he played the position that Phil wanted him to play. So leadership is really the internal desire to be a teacher and help people improve. And obviously, if you're in the corporate world, to increase the bottom line and to produce a product that's better than your competitor. And if you're in sports, you also lead. But in sports, so much of the person's style comes forth in the period of time that the operation is working. The game is being played. And therefore, you become even more aware of the different behaviors that people utilize in order to try to motivate their players to do the right thing. So
that's excellent, and it's a wonderful observation of Phil Jackson and the wonderful things that he's done. Dr. Fischler, in your opinion, where does leadership start? Where you're a leader that's out there in our audience. What guidance would you give them to start the process for themselves?
It starts in the viewing of your behavior in relation to what you're seeing, and trying to get some changes occurring in the behaviors of what's going on before you. So leaders tend to have the responsibility of improving the bottom line in the corporate world, or improving the individual player in the sports world. And depending on your style, which you have internalized yourself, and the experiences that you bring to that point in time. I was telling you this morning that one of the individuals who followed me was a Marine officer, a big, tall, strappy young man, and brought a different style
than
I brought. I was never a Marine. I was in the Navy, and I'm not big and tall and strong. Getting weaker, by the way.
What would you say are three, or not even three, but some mistakes that leaders make and that get in their way?
Well, if they can't control the emotional response to what they see, and they become so furious at somebody who's made mistakes or is not doing what they were supposed to be doing, or in the wrong positions, or not turning out the quality product that is necessary for a market, they lose a coolness about them, and sometimes their behavior indicates to not only the person that they want to talk to that's responsible for it, but if they do it in the public domain because they're so anxious, it makes it more difficult. It makes it more difficult for that person to be able to acquire what he's looking or what she's looking for in terms of the leadership that she's trying to use in order to change.
And what role do you see in terms of learning and development and continuously improving? What kind of techniques can a person use and put in today to help them? I look at you as a continual learner. I've learned from you for many years. You constantly are reading things, doing things. What are some things that people can do in order to keep their knowledge growing?
Well, you have to have within yourself the desire to become and have learned to be a self-learner. It starts with your environment when you're a young child. You're learning all the time, especially in that 0 to 5 age group. So it depends on the responses you get to the errors that you're making as you're growing up. Some you like, some you enjoy, some you don't enjoy. You don't enjoy someone hitting you because you made an error. And that's not really helping you to develop this ability to look at yourself critically. We're talking and we have a camera in front of us.
Right.
I expect to get results from that camera because I'll examine my own behavior as I sit here now, and hopefully I'll learn how to improve what I'm doing since I don't do this for a living.
So did everybody hear that? Right away, Dr. Fischler is taking the knowledge of even what we're going through now, looking at it, not being so hard on himself, but to continually develop and improve the quality of delivery of the next situation. So it sounds like that's what leadership trait you'd want to impart on a person, is the continual process, because some of us did not get that growing up, potentially. So how do we implement that is to take the approach that it's okay to continually learn, to continually develop, to continually grow, make mistakes, try new things. That's what I'm hearing you say.
We have in front of us a tool
Yes.
that could be used. When I was consulting in the school systems, I would put a camera in a classroom. It's called clinical supervision, by the way, developed by Morris Kogan at Harvard.
Okay.
And I happened to be at Harvard, so I watched him and then I used it myself. I would just put the camera up and get out of the room. And then 30 minutes later, I'd come back and shut the camera off. I'd take it out, and then I'd study what I see, and I would do an analysis, and then I would meet with the person one-on-one. And because we called it clinical supervision, we'd play the camera and have that person view what I see.
Wow.
And then we would talk about it. And what are some of the alternatives that you might be willing to use? You chose this, but are there others that you might consider? And because it was in an educational environment, the population is 25 youngsters or 30 youngsters, depending on the class size. And you might find that there are different youngsters responding in a different way to the same stimulus.
Yes.
And so what you begin to see is that one stimulus of this particular manner may not be getting through positively to all the young people that are sitting in the room.
So again, it's you have a style, they have a style. You have to observe them based on their reaction to how you're coming across to them. So this is at any age. You happen to do it with children,
right.
But it was at any age, and then you've got to observe how you're coming across to them and what their needs are from you.
Well, for them, if you don't have the camera, they may not have seen what's going on in the room, which you think was important for them to have noticed, but they didn't see that. They were looking over to the left, and this happened in the right.
Gotcha.
And so the camera reinforces the behavior that you feel you want to talk about, and that happened in the classroom.
if we're leaders that are out there and don't necessarily have a camera, where we can get feedback from, where I always learn to get feedback is from other people, because they can give you perceptions as well if you don't have the camera live.
Exactly.
So you can get feedback. And I know you've been through several processes of getting feedback and receiving feedback and learning about your style. What would you say is your leadership style? What would you say is the thing that you like to lead by in terms of what you want to accomplish?
Well, I tend not to want to embarrass people.
Okay.
So I don't do it in a large domain. If I'm working on somewhat with one person or even two, I want to sit in a room, and after I want to be able to analyze what I saw to be sure that I can use that as a way of getting them to think about their own behavior and how these events occur. In clinical supervision, when I started, we used to take a pad, put a carbon paper in it, and we would sit in the back of the classroom and write what we're observing all the time. And then before we left the classroom, we tore off a set of papers we wrote and give it to them. So they had time to do exactly what I would be doing, which is go back to my office, go through those behaviors and circle what I wanted to talk about. And the beauty of that was the teacher saw me writing in the classroom, so they knew that what I wrote was really what I saw.
So it sounds to me that you were always a coach to people. You always did observation, stepping away from trying to be so brutally hard with them, but you got to give a direct message, but you're giving it based on the facts, based on the observations that you've done.
Well, you have to have data, and that was one way of collecting data before we had these cameras. And once the cameras came in, we substituted the camera for sitting there, but the film was done there, and they couldn't deny that that was going on, because otherwise how did it get on film? So all that stuff taught me a style of leadership.